In about a week, Tyler Shough and the New Orleans Saints could be headed for a contract dispute leading to a camp holdout or hold in. I don't think it's time to panic, but I think it's time we take a good look at what's going on so we could prepare ourselves for a possible bad scenario, worst case. Hopefully not. I'm Tim. Let's talk Saints. Easiest way to explain kind of what's going on and how we found ourselves here is going back May and in June, because kind of two things happened right after the draft. Basically, one thing involving two players, which was on May 8th, Jaden Higgins, who was the second pick in the second round, was signed by Houston to a fully guaranteed 4-year deal. First time in NFL history, a second round pick got a fully guaranteed rookie deal. The very next day, Cleveland, with the first pick in the second round, Carson Schweisinger, linebacker, did the exact same thing and fully guaranteed his 4-year rookie deal, making him the second. The deal breaks down. It's on the rookie pay scale. It's going to be somewhere around 11.8 million for the first pick, around 11.7 million for the second pick, and respectively in the second round. And that's pretty much what they got on their deals. But this started kind of a trimmer of players in the second round going, well, they got it. We want it. And then you had a perfect storm of who the eighth pick was overall. It was our quarterback, Tyler Shough, eighth pick in the second round, excuse me, not overall, who, as of Derek Carr's retirement just previous to the draft, kind of went into the and can't blame him for thinking this, going, well, they drafted me to possibly be the starting quarterback. I'm looking for guaranteed money. All this was kind of brought to attention. It had been thrown around, but a writer for CBS named Joel Corey, and he's a former sports agent with Premier Sports and Entertainment, kind of wrote an article pointing these factors out, going, and this was on June 19th. So over a month ago, he's kind of pointing out this could drag out because now you have a perfect storm of circumstances. You got a historic first two picks in the second round getting fully guaranteed money. A guy who was eighth in the second round kind of trying to angle towards getting it. In between them, you've got the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh picks for respective teams who aren't going anywhere and doing anything till Shough kind of makes his deal. And then you've got the effect it's going to have on 9 all the way back to the end of that second round. Corey in that article cited basically that he was seeking full, like I said, a fully guaranteed contract because he was expecting to be the start quarterback. Yeah, well, you may expect to be, but it doesn't mean it's actually going to happen. But also, kind of in there, mentioning that or some substantial portion of 2028 guaranteed, that portion of the contract, which that last year, I get it. Trying to grab a little more security, every player is going to want to do it. And if the first two fully guaranteed contracts of the round, kind of give him a little leg to stand on to push for it. So this has kind of just been a whole wait and see situation because it looks like the whole NFL, and it seems like they knew this when this started in May and started moving into June. That kind of, well, it's kind of up to Shough and the Saints. They're going to be the linchpin of this whole thing, how the rest of it plays out. So here we are, almost to the point where he's got to report to training camp on the 23rd, going, are we any closer to a resolution? And it seems like sort of, maybe, but not really, because I'm going to lay out the case. There's a lot of other factors involved, and a lot of it has to do with what second round picks in 2023 and 2024 got at various points along the round, and that's playing heavily into what's going on now. So overthecap.com on July 14th kind of released a little article with a couple of charts that I think sums up what's happening here this in 2025 with the second round picks. Is what they showed is percentage of guaranteed for the second round picks in 2023 to 2024 and the percent change. And if you notice in 2024, basically 33 and 34 were zeroing in on 100% guaranteed salaries and had been trending up more or less. 33 took a bigger jump between the 2 years than 34, but sooner or later, these trends continued. It was going to be 100% guaranteed at some point. Looks like Cleveland and Houston just kind of sped up that process a little bit. But the interesting thing is when you get down to 40, there's a 2.6% change from 77.9 to 80.5. Now, if Tyler Shough were to get 100% fully guaranteed, well, 34 through 39 is going to want 100% guaranteed also. So now that trend that was looking towards, well, the first and second pick of the second round will get that 100% guaranteed at some point. Now you're looking at the first eight, almost definite, set in stone. The bigger issue for the NFL as a whole is as you go down this chart, as you get deeper and deeper into that second round, those percents start dropping fast. You get to the point that the last pick in the second round not only is looking at about half the guaranteed money, but some of those on the bottom end, the percentage change actually fell a little bit. The other thing that they pointed out, and we're going with 2022 because 2025 is the fourth year of those draft picks. But from 2015 to 2022, they charted the percentage each year of the contract, the percentage that the draftee remained with his original club. In year one, it's 100%. Year two, it has gotten to be 100%. It's trending that way in year three. Year four, not quite as high as the other. And I think that's part of this too, is that even if they don't get 100% fully guaranteed, the players are trying to angle to where that number is a little higher. And in Shough's case, wanting to battle for the starting quarterback job, the more security he can put on the back end of that contract, the better off it is for him. Now, what these numbers don't tell you, it's just a general, hey, this is how the math works out. We don't know if that's because the player actually was very good or if the club was just too stubborn to say, think Isaiah Foskey possibly, too stubborn to say, we made a bad pick and we're not moving on from him. We're just going to hang on to him until the contract runs out. We've seen some examples also in the previous years of some first round picks who kind of fell into that category also. So you can kind of see how all of a sudden we're finding ourselves in even though there's a rookie pay scale and, pretty much contracts between rookies and uh, teams had been almost eliminated by virtue of that. Every now and then you get a little contention. There would be some language and some offset language and phrases like that get thrown around, why it may hang up a little bit. But generally speaking, it wasn't like in the past where rookies were holding out um, before all this was built into the collective bargaining agreement. And this is kind of not as bad, I don't think, as those times were, if you remember it. But all of a sudden now it's like players and player representation suddenly are getting a little more leg to stand on when you start looking at the trend of that, both of percentage of guaranteed kind of keep moving up, at least for the high end of the second round, and the fact that more and more they're sticking around for the team for at least 3 years with a increasing better chance of being there all 4 years. So Trey Harris actually was officially a holdout when the Chargers opened their camp last Friday. And this week, you have the Ravens, the Bills, the Dolphins, the 49ers, the Seahawks, the Giants, the Broncos, the Lions, Raiders, Browns, Packers, and Commanders. That's 12 teams actually started yesterday on Tuesday, spreading out till Friday. 12 teams and 13 potential second-round picks involved that could all be holdouts or hold-ins where they may show up. But look, we'll sit in the classroom, but we're not going to do anything till we get this contract thing worked out. And again, they're all kind of waiting to see, and they may have to wait a week, where the Saints and Shough, where they're going to fall in this whole deal. So we're kind of the cog that may actually be holding up most of the NFL in the second round picks, because the numbers that at the time of of Joel Corey's article. There was 200 when he wrote it on the 19th or published it on the 19th. 257 players drafted in 2025. 221 signed. 36 unsigned. 30 of those were second round picks. It's still only the first two. Now you've had some changes in that. Jedi Barron just signed with Denver within the last day or so. You got some stuff going on with Cincinnati's first round pick about possibly packing up his stuff and trying to go back and play another year at A&M and sitting out in 2025. And Quinshon Judkins found himself in a lot of hot water over the weekend in Fort Lauderdale. That's going to be problematic. So those numbers are off a little bit, but not by much. You've got some tweaks and potential non-sightings or a recent signing. Some more could pop in. And I'm not saying they're all going to be holdouts or hold-ins, but I think they're all tempted basically of what's happening. Again, waiting on for Chuck and the Saints to figure their stuff out. Here's where we jump into the realm of I get the relevance, and we'll talk about setting a precedent here in a second. But at the same time, it really should be a simple fix, and it's kind of a ridiculous conversation that this is even getting to the point where only 2 of the 32 drafted in the second round have signed. If you go to Spotrac's website, they actually have the rookie scale, and they were basically projected 11.8 million for Schweisinger, 11.7 million for Higgins. That's per year, average yearly salary. That's what they got more or less in their deals. Fully guaranteed. Like we said, jumped up. They were previous years, those were 2 positions were about 90%. They got the whole deal. So if you look at their scale at number 40, here's where things get a little interesting and a little ridiculous at the same time. 10.7 million roughly is what Shough's pay scale would be. Now, if we were going to, I'm just kind of saying, okay, if we're along that same line of 2.5% increase from 24 to 25, that would bring him up to somewhere around 83% of fully guaranteed, which higher than each of the 2 previous years, of course. So that 10.7, you do the math, that'd be about 8.9 million guaranteed, roughly leaving about 1.8 million in unguaranteed money. Over 4 years, that's 450K a year, less than half a million. To me, and most of the people probably watching this, that's kind of life-changing money to get, especially over 4 years if you're talking 1.8 million. To an NFL club whose payroll for a year is about 270 million in players alone, dropping a bucket. They won't even notice that. Players themselves are going to be somewhere in between us and the club. Not for me to say exactly where, but it is important to them. In the fully guaranteed, like we said, especially with money on that 4th year, is important to them. It's all about security. That's where it gets interesting and to me just a little ridiculously dumb because when we were looking at the chart from over the cap saying, look, we're to the point now where second round picks basically stay with their clubs for the first 3 years, 100% or close to at the time. It's only that 4th year, and even that has been trending up. Now, regardless if it's because the club's stubborn or the player's that good and deserves it, doesn't really matter. The numbers are the numbers. Shame on the NFL clubs who didn't move on and put themselves in this position. But I don't think you could crack the collective bargaining agreement right now. So the future solution is very simple. But the one right now is I'm for the Saints in Tyler Shough, because pretty sure this is the one that's holding everything up. Just look at it and go, for the most part, you're going to be here for 3 years. Let's go ahead and fully guarantee the first 3 years. We'll put a portion, probably similar to that 83% number, somewhere in there on the 4th year. You can write anything you want into the contract at that point to make it fully guaranteed if he's named starter, which is, if he wins a starting job and holds on to it over those first 3 years, well, that's a no-brainer. We're going to extend him long before we get to that fully guaranteed 4th year anyway. So again, kind of ridiculous. As soon as this year is over, I really think the NFL and the NFLPA do need to crack the collective bargaining agreement and get in there and do something similar to the first round, which is 4 years guaranteed, 5th year club option. I think you're seeing trending numbers both in the salary increases of guaranteed money per year and the percentage that players stay on their original team when they're drafting the second round pick, going, all right, if you're a second round pick, you get 3 years fully guaranteed and a fourth year club option. Same exact thing as round one, except we're just going to reduce the years from 4 to 3 and then still stick the club option on the end of it. Problem solved. But this is the NFL. They can't do things simple. In the greater scheme of things, this is where I think Shough and the Saints are, look, don't get me wrong. Both sides are in it for their individual gain. I can see the side of it from the Saints because God knows I've been one of the people preaching this club needs to get back to being fiscally responsible in whatever way, shape, or form they can. So I get, as I just said, when you're talking 1.8 million total over 4 years, dropping the bucket to them, but it is kind of the principle of the thing in setting the precedent for the NFL level. If he gets 100% guaranteed in absence of any agreement in a collective bargaining, like we said earlier, that's going to basically the top 8 picks are going to be fully guaranteed, or top 8 picks in the second round, fully guaranteed. And those numbers behind are going to take significant jumps in guaranteed money. But I can also see it again from the player side going, look, this is an opportunity. And I am not the type of guy that ever wants to take money out of anybody's pocket. This is an opportunity for them to cash in on an earnings potential just by the way all this is played out. And it's formed a little, I guess, anomaly where they can kind of go, quote unquote, old school and buck the system a little bit and hold out and maybe force the clubs into doing something they don't want to do. I do believe, this is my opinion, and I can't prove one thing of what I'm saying other than it just makes sense that both sides are probably getting a little external pressure. NFL and other owners are going, look, you need to not 100% guarantee that contract to Shough. Shough and his management is probably hearing from other players and other players' management going, hey, you need to hold out for that because everybody's going to benefit this year. And like I mentioned, this is going to lead to something that similar down the road. And I think that's the real issue because I caught wind when Pablo Torres was talking about the NFLPA grievance against Collusion. Finally tracked it down and read it a little late because all of a sudden that seemed a lot more relevant. And I think that's playing a huge part into this whole thing. Again, my opinion, but I'll walk you through it real quick. Let you decide. So again, I am going to reiterate what I'm about ready to say. My opinion. This is just my best guess at reading the tea leaves of what's going on. Because again, referencing, I remember a few weeks ago when Pablo Torres broke the story about what happened. Initially, at the time, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it, but since then, kind of looked into it a little bit. It it's involved. Go find his stuff. He'll walk you through it. And I think he's got both video and written stuff on it. It shouldn't be that hard to find. And it would take a long time for me to explain it. So just hitting the high points. Then in October 2022, the NFLPA filed a grievance. It was triggered by earlier that year Deshaun Watson's $230 million fully guaranteed contract with Cleveland in March. NFLPA alleged collusion among NFL owners when it came to guaranteed deals, and they specifically mentioned quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, and Russell Wilson. And they're saying this violated a provision about anti-collusion. There was a hearing through July and August of 2024. It was in arbitration. They kind of hashed out the details, but there was one thing I think that bears mentioning. There was key testimony, including Roger Goodell, um, and Executive Director DeMaurice Smith, that this targeted quarterbacks, what they were alleging. Um, the ruling was issued January of this year, and it said, hey, no formal collusion was found, despite kind of the head of the NFL and the head of the NFLPA kind of bringing some evidence that maybe it was, but they did confirm, according to that testimony, a clear and by clear and preponderance of evidence that the NFL Management Council, with Goodell's endorsement, encouraged teams to reduce guaranteed money during the March 2022 owners meeting. Read into that what you will. They had a confidentiality agreement on it, so it was like I knew nothing about any of this going on, and maybe it was mentioned at the time. I don't know, but it flew under radars because I think a lot of people didn't realize it was going on, which kind of led to some backlash on the fact that there was a confidentiality agreement because Pablo Torres kind of had a public leak. He found out about it and revealed the ruling, and the backlash was coming from media, players, fans. Like, what the hell? What the hell is going on here? And on July 9th, a little less than a week ago, the NFLPA is now appealing this ruling. So basically, that's the whole can of worms is going to get opened back up again. In my mind, you cannot convince me that that whole play out over, when we're talking second round picks, we're talking 2022 to 2025 guaranteed money. This whole thing just evolves around, in my mind, once again, kind of that same battle playing out in real time with the second round picks. Because, like I said, there's no real rule here about how to handle it, where a 3-year fully guaranteed with fourth-year option would solve the problem like that. You think this is just another fight brewing between the NFL and the NFLPA over money? My thought is it's billionaires versus millionaires. This conversation's been rehashed many, many times when this comes up. As a fan perspective, though, that I feel like these external pressures that I'm guessing is forcing our potential young quarterback of the future and our club into an impasse that they might be able to work out on their own eventually with a little common sense. Who knows? But I think this is boiling down to, again, I think, and each side is not doing it solely because of the NFL or the NFLPA and various influences, but I think that's a factor to them kind of really digging in on this. So I don't think it's time to panic, but I think it's something if you understand the whole how we got here. And all along until the Pablo Torres article, I thought this was all just starting in 2025, but apparently in my mind, there's some deep rooted stuff here that's going all the way back to 2022. And I don't want to compromise the potential success of our rebuild based on this. Let me know what you think in the comments, whether my theory holds water or I'm totally full of crap, because I don't really know. But this is just a little more gut feeling and intuition going. NFL owners and the NFLPA, player management, everybody just maybe kind of dragging us down a little bit of road that ultimately we probably could have worked out with no issues or worries about Tyler Shough not being there ready to go on the 23rd. Only conclusion I can reach is I sincerely hope I'm 1,000% wrong that this is anything more than just Shough versus the Saints kind of haggling over less than $2 million, for lack of a better phrase for it, because I think that would get worked out in some way, shape, or form, where with no other interference pressures or people, in my opinion, butting their heads in where they shouldn't be sticking their heads, um, it's not a reason to panic. Just the only concern that lingers is because we know how, especially the NFL owners operate when they want to come together and do, let's say, at best, shady stuff, and in this case, at worst, something that's definitely against the CBA and can get them into a lot of trouble. That doesn't tend to stop them very often. So they're going to play that game. The NFLPA and the players have no choice but to play the game right back. Don't hate the game, hate the players, whatever the expression is. I don't know. I'm not that hip, but That seems like the situation we could be falling into. That's where I get concerned. We steer clear of that, you know, week to go. I'm pretty confident we'll be fine because to me, I just don't want to jeopardize a legitimate chance to rebuild from the start because of some NFL owners, NFLPA stupidity. So let me know what you think. Like I said, drop them in the comments. Let me know. I hope I'm being paranoid and tinfoil hat conspiracy type thing. I really, really do. But let me know what you think. Give me your opinion on it. Um, First time here, please go ahead and hit the subscribe. Helps me out a lot. The thumbs up helps me out a lot. We're still steadily growing, and I appreciate each and every one of you for helping out with that. We'll see what the rest of the next 7 days or so plays out as far as the Saints. I'm a little surprised we're not hearing anything on the free agent. I thought maybe some signing or two would be down the road, but you know, it's occurring to me right now as I'm saying it. Maybe this Shuck thing even has something to do a little bit with that. Who knows? But whatever comes up, we'll cover it to the best of our ability. So, till I see you next time, I'm Tim. Peace out and who dat.